Hey guys, what's up? It's Schlaw, and today I'm coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Schlaw. And what I was just thinking about is people's total and utter lack of optimization, and how frustrating it is to be, subject to. No, I'm not subject to anything. I guess I'm subject to having to deal with it. I just think, and it kind of ties into what I was talking about yesterday with how nobody cares about food, nobody cares about nutrition, nobody understands it properly. A lot of people have very poor grasps of it. But everybody asserts that their opinion is fine and their opinion is okay. And I think that is very frustrating for me because, believe it or not, I'm actually not a very opinionated person. And that's always what ends up getting labeled on me when I talk to people. Oh, you have these opinions. You're opinionated. I'm not opinionated. I'm not opinionated at all, actually. I have no interest in holding opinions. I have an interest in trying to figure out what is the actual thing I should be doing in whatever field that happens to be. I don't like opinions. I don't like the concept of just, oh, well, somebody gets to believe this just cause it's what they thought. I think it's just a vantage point issue, really, because like I said, a lot of people can't comprehend statistics properly, and they can't comprehend numbers and values to things, so their opinion just seems fine, because that's ultimately how everybody thinks. If something's neutral or even slightly bad, it's very difficult for them to see it as bad. Like, the only things that are actually bad are things that are, like, outright bad. And then if something's kind of ambiguous, but it's still not a good thing, people just don't see it. People just shrug it off. They don't care. And I think that's a big part with the food thing. You know, it is evil. It is an evil thing to participate in the fruit industry. I'm just saying it. I'm saying the truth. It's evil. And I'm sure I'm going to say that, and people are going to say, oh, it's hyperbolic. Oh, that's a crazy opinion. No, it's not my opinion. It's rooted in fact. And the fact of the matter is, supporting that evil industry is horrible. That's the fact of the matter. It's not my opinion about it. Fruit's not good for people. Broad scale. Now, I mean, I say that is a bit hyperbolic. I would say it's relatively neutral at best. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. And I think that's the problem, like I said, with this channel and this content that I'm pushing out, is that I'm right about a lot of stuff. I'm talking about a lot of good things. But it doesn't even matter because people are so far from even entertaining a conversation like this. And that it aggravates me, you know, because I'm here. I don't know what better people have to do with their time than to try to be the best version of themselves, or I think more importantly, be the best version for society. I don't know what else is there to do with your life and with your time. It just seems, the whole thing seems strange to me, people's priorities, and I just think we're probably transitioning into a new period or era or something where people before didn't really need or have this level of autonomy, and now you do. Now you do have to navigate the chaos and sift through the correct information and whatnot, and you didn't have to do that before. So I don't know, I think that has something to do with it. It's just too much responsibility for people. And that's why people are probably going to slip further and further to authoritarian style rule, because they don't really have any dominion over themselves anymore. And I don't know that humans ever did. But it's that in the past you didn't have all this open-ended freedom, and there wasn't a system to comprehend. Things just worked based on you followed tradition. And I think that's probably one of the biggest flaws with democracy, liberal democracy, is that you need a highly educated population who understands the systems within the society and what's necessary to make it fair or not. And see, you already lost people. Even in saying that, you already lost people. Because there's probably a lot of people who go through their whole life, and I bet they barely even think about government. And that's a problem. That's exactly why I think we could lose it. So much ignorance. It's really all that I see when I talk to people, and all I've ever seen. And the people who try to be smart, most of the time they argue things incorrectly and argue with me even though it's something I'm right about. Second guess me. It's just crazy. I don't know, people's memory recall, right? Maybe their memory is worse than mine. I don't know what it is. But I'm just realizing, because I just think so many people, they get distracted. They can't stay focused on broad scale, bigger ideas. Whereas me, if I'm done watching a movie, doesn't really faze me. I'll just be back to thinking about this kind of stuff. My thoughts in my head are pretty accurate to how I'm speaking. How I speak on this show, it's pretty accurate to my thoughts. I think I'm trying my best to portray what goes through my mind through my voice, which it's not quite as fast. But I think I already said I do feel like my mouth to mind connection is much stronger than, I don't know, anybody. I don't even know. Because even now, I'm still not really getting too much recognition for what I'm doing. It doesn't really seem like anybody, and it's insane. What I'm doing is pretty impressive. And especially because I did it on my own accord. I'm choosing to work extra hours. I'm choosing to do car rides with Schlaw. And I think it's a lot of negative experiences that have shaped me to get to this point. Because I've just been let down by so many people. It's crazy. It's all crazy. But yeah, I don't understand why people don't care. Nobody wants to learn anything, and I don't know, why do I, in the midst of this? Why have I been given what I've been given? I've always wondered that, because a part of me always wanted to be somebody else, especially when I was younger. It just seemed like other people, things kind of flowed easier. They were, I didn't like being me when I was a teenager. Now, at this point, I think I'm fairly happy to be myself. I've gotten pretty accustomed to it. But it's also because I see the horizon now. It was like the sun wasn't there before, at least from my perspective, but now it's there. It's just you can see the sun start to rise. So I see others' potential to me, and it's a shame that I was never really given the potential. It's very sad. No, I mean, given the potential. Let me try to reiterate that better. I was never really given the chance to shine. I was just neglected. I slipped through the cracks, really. That's me and my whole situation, is just somebody who slipped through the cracks and was probably capable but never amounted to much due to a combination of things. My shyness. And you have to think about this. Somebody who their gift is their voice, not only does that put me at a risk of being seen as annoying by a lot of people, it's harder to get support, especially with the type of things that I was interested in. Caring about things, bigger topics. A lot of people think it's annoying. People just want to talk, have fun, do fun things. Of course, this is fun for me. It's not like it's not fun. I like what I talk about in these. This is fun. To me, a lot of the fun things that people allegedly engage in, it's just shallow. It's not really that interesting. It's kind of boring. And I've been saying that's how I feel about, or I've been feeling about video games now for a while. Because it's like, nothing really gets accomplished. Nothing's really happening when you play a game. It's, I don't know. So it's difficult for me. I mean, I still try to have some downtime here and there. I do think it's important to have a balance, but it's crazy how I look for things to do that are productive. I want to be productive, and society is not even set up to be that way. It's you are set up to be taken advantage of and to blow your money, and that's how everything's set up. Very parasitic. We've talked about this a million times, but I don't know. And I guess the elites just think that the strong will survive, and that's how they're going to filter through it. I've talked about that theory a lot before too. They're just going to crash everything really badly, and then the strong will survive. Because, yeah, cost of living and all these things are a problem, but the truth is, if somebody's working 2 jobs and they're smart with their finances, you could make it work. And it's horrible. That's not a good life, but you're still going to be standing. I'm not sure how much more there really is to give, though, because like I said, I had assumed the amount of people who had to work 2 jobs is more than it is, and it's actually not. I think we talked about that. It's only 10% of the population that works 50 hours, so less than half is working, over 40. I know for men, the median's like 41, and for women, it's like 36 or something like that for hours worked a week. And that's just impossible to really do anything with, especially with how inefficient people are at budgeting in the first place. I really don't understand when it's going to give, because the dam's going to break at some point. What's happening now is beyond what most people are capable of. And you still have a lot of residual infrastructure set up where a lot of people still have an old car, so they haven't had to buy a new car yet. Or they still have an old house, but they're not able to get it fixed properly. But these things are really going to pile up swiftly. In another 10 years, you're not just going to keep being able to buy old cars. It's only going to be expensive new cars. And something is going to give. Something is absolutely going to give. So, I don't know when it's going to happen, but there's just no way the way things are working now is sustainable. Humans have a limit. It's about 40 hours a week, it seems. I mean, a lot of people even prefer 30-something hours, honestly. I don't think anybody wants to work more than that. And that's just the truth. Like, people don't like it. So you can't have a system where you have to work overtime just to be normal. Because that's where I'm at, and that's where I'm at, and that's where most people are at. You can't afford to do stuff working 40 hours. You can't. And again, these things keep getting worse. There's been a lot of residual support. There's been so much residual support. You have parents supporting their kids for longer than usual. People not moving out for longer than usual. And so there were these residual lines of support, but they're not going to be there forever. They're going to run out. And parents are getting hit hard too. But like I said, I still am a firm believer that it's just people's fault. People either didn't vote or didn't vote right. I don't mean right as in right, just mean correctly. People didn't vote correctly. And that's why we're here. I mean, it's people's own fault, and the blood's on the hands of people born in the 1900s. The people born in the 1900s have the most blood on their hands of probably any generation, because they blew such a good thing. We had figured it out. We had this really good system, and they blew it. But I have no idea what's going to happen, but I know things are going to have to give at some point. But revolution is tricky, and I've talked about that before. I'm personally one of those people that believe people won't revolt. I don't really think they have it in them. It's just like, I think it's hard for people to wrap their heads around just how insane smartphones are in the grand historical scheme of things. It's just totally absurd, and there's still really no reason to revolt. And I've said this before, even in my situation or a lot of people's situation. If you have a TV and a smartphone, it is like you that can shrivel up any goals and aspirations and higher thinking you have. Those devices and those things are so addictive and stimulating. There's not really a reason to move past that. There's just not. You know what I'm saying? So, and I've thought about that before. That's what I was saying, where being homeless, I was thinking about being homeless and just having a phone and headphones, because the amount, and it's only gotten better since I was thinking about that in the late 2010s. Technology is so much better and cheaper now. Like, you can get a cheap phone that's very performant, and that's only going to continue to, every year they're coming out with a faster, better, more capable phone. And it just gets to the point where most humans are literally going to have no need to work. It's not going to happen anymore. Like, or the worst part is they're going to have no reason to have a high wage. And you're probably already seeing that, because people are inundated with pleasure and they're inundated with delusion, and they go to work because they have to, but nobody's ready to fight. Nobody's ready to revolt. And I just don't think people will. I think things could get really bad, but At the end of the day, if people are in debt, but they still have their screen, you can live totally fictitiously. I mean, you can even see a reality where you have the Apple Vision thing, and in your real life, everything's horrible. Your wage is super low. You're in a bunch of debt that you're just chronically paying to who knows who. I mean, at some point, it could be the government. It could be taxes. I know right now it's banks, but I think at some point you could have government interests that you have to pay to the government or something like that. Like life is going to be, you have a bunch of subscriptions and you won't have a choice. It'll be like you have to. Like, let's say, in order to even be able to get gasoline for your car, you have to have a subscription in order to drive a car. Well, you already have to have a subscription to drive a car, really. So, yeah, I mean, wow, it's crazy to think that we've already been here. Everything's a subscription. You can't, property tax. Now, my opinion on property tax is that there should be again, with a lot of these things, I talk about the raising the floor, right? So I think if you just have a normal house, you shouldn't pay property tax. But if you own a crazy house, then it's like, well, or if you own multiple homes, like there should definitely be a multiple homes tax. I mean, that kind of makes sense, right? But like if you have one home, you should at least be able to get a discount or something off your I mean, it makes no sense. I think you should be able to have the peace of mind to own a home and just own it and not, I don't know. But again, it would only be a certain value. Like, obviously, if you have a big house, yeah, I think you should pay property tax because it's one of the better ways to have a scaling thing. Although, I think a lot of people, even as is, I don't know how the millage rates work. Yeah, I know, I'm giving like so many opinions about this and I don't even understand how it works. I don't know if it's progressive or not, but if it's a flat tax, then maybe I don't really know how I feel about property tax. It should be a progressive tax, like the income tax. I don't know. But again, I mean, this is when I kind of get conflicted because I want to see humanity at its best, and I think that is hypothetically possible, but this would be assuming you're giving tax breaks to poor people who are effective people, who aren't blowing their money on a bunch of useless, frivolous things. You know what I mean? But here's the thing. I mean, it's not a class issue because there's a lot of rich people that do the same thing that I'm mad at. If anything, I'm probably more mad at rich people because they have a lot of money and then they blow it on things that, like, it's even worse. Yeah, so in terms of making it a class issue, it doesn't even matter. I guess that's a good point. I guess that's a really good point, is that I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know what I'm getting at then. Because I don't know. I don't know how much it matters to give. I guess I do like the idea of, like, well, I think it could be advantageous for the economy, because the more tax breaks the rich have, at least they typically invest it in the stock market, which is probably it's better than having it sit around doing nothing, but. And I guess it's technically, but still, then, okay, well, stocks, they do business, but it's only because of workers that they're doing the business. So I think it's a complicated answer, because you can't, even if you want growth and like a pro-business side of things, you need workers in order to make business work. So that I don't really know how much sense that makes. And if you paid people higher, you'd probably have better workers too. So yeah, it kind of goes back to me thinking that there is something wrong with the way things are, and things are not equal enough. There's I think very little justification for that, but I know what they're trying to do. Like I said, they're basically trying to choke out anybody who's incompetent, anybody who's like wasting money on things and stuff like that. They're just trying to choke people out, because I think they want to usher in some kind of new system. I don't think people are aware of their own evil. That's like the problem. People don't understand how horrible society is, and just the intrinsic nature of humans. I don't think people understand how horrible it is. They have no problem in pointing out when other people do things wrong, but again, it's the little things that people can't see, like buying fruit. It's the little things. Nobody can see that that's evil, even though it is a deep evil. It's a very deep evil. But nobody's going to see that, acknowledge it, or change it. So we're here. That's where we're at. And I just think people are just going to get wiped out, honestly. I don't know that I will, as long as I can keep getting the hours I'm getting, but I'm not going to be able to get rich. Like I said, my only hope really is that in the new system, I'm going to be very capable for a job handling or managing AI or something like that. But the problem is I have no credentials for that, and I haven't really been trained. So there could be other people in more tech industries that are better equipped to do that. So that's the only thing I'm a little bit worried about, but I'm hoping that I will be seen as worthy. I don't know. But like I said, that's kind of up in the air. It's not something that it's just up in the air, you know. I'm trying to document and track a lot of this stuff as proof. I think it's more than a lot of people can say. But I do want to go back to what I was saying. I mean, yeah, if anything, rich people, I think, are the bigger problem. And that's kind of why they're trying to change the system, I think, into eliminating the middle class. Because if you think about what the middle class is and does, it's just, you buy a Buick instead of a Chevy. That's the middle class. You get like a nicer lamp in your living room. You get a nicer sofa. It's not really anything relevant or useful. You get to have the latest console every generation, whereas poorer people have to make do with a lesser console. Like, that's all it is. That's all it is. You know? It's nothing. Nothing's happening that's really that impressive or anything, and so I think they're just going to wipe it out, because the lower class and higher class setup, it probably makes more sense, because then you just have people who are more materially efficient and intelligent, handling all the property and possessions, and then you have a lower class that just all their money gets funneled into subscriptions, and then they're kept I don't know, entertained, or like I said, I don't think car ownership will exist. That idea of everybody kind of using these communal cars, not at the same time, but I guess it could kind of work like a school bus, honestly. I don't know what's more or less efficient. It would just be some kind of calculated thing. They'd have different sizes of cars, you know, but that's what's going to happen, because it would just be a more efficient system. What are you going to do when people can't afford cars anymore? You're going to oh, well, you guys are struggling, so we have to introduce this new system. That's what's going to happen. Thought I was going to be a little earlier today, but I'm not really sure. Now I'm kind of second guessing that. That's weird. Maybe I drove slower. That sometimes happens. I mean, I don't drive. I drive actually very consistently, but sometimes it's a little bit on the slower end, because I feel like 55 is probably the sweet spot for a car, kind of in my opinion, I guess. But, you know, I guess in between 50 and 60 is usually where I try to go. But I guess I try to be more like between 55 and 60. Because I would do 50, but a lot of people don't, I don't know. A lot of people don't really respect that, so you have to be a little bit mindful when you're on the highway. Even 55, a lot of people don't respect it, because a lot of people just go 70 or 80 if they can. But yeah, I think, I think the 55 is probably what every car should just be limited to. Every speed limit should just be 55. I don't know why that's... I mean, you could put like a 65 speed limit on cars, like a physical... I think that's fine. Or like a 70 or an 80, but I think that 80 should be the ceiling. I mean, you shouldn't really be allowed to manufacture a car that goes over 80 unless it's, a special performance car or something. I don't know. But for regular day-to-day cars, there's little reason why there shouldn't just be an 80 mile per hour limit. And why there shouldn't be horsepower limits, and because the regulations don't make sense. It's efficiency regulations, but it should have also been a horsepower standard. I really wish they would have done that, because it would have it makes things a lot safer. And it's so much better for the environment, because again, it's not just emissions. I don't know if I've talked about it recently or not. It's tires. So having more horsepower, it's a compounding issue, but it's not mostly the issue of the emissions from the engine. It's mostly an issue of increased tire wear from a more powerful drivetrain. It's really what the problem is. So a reduction in horsepower would really have a dramatic difference. I think most cars only need like 100 horsepower, honestly. It could scale with size and weight, but in terms of a baseline, the Fiat, the Mini, the old Mini, the Fiat, I think they have like a little over 100 horsepower engines in them. And so you could scale it up from that by weight or something like that. But I think like a 10-second 0 to 60 is just totally fine. It's crazy. I mean, you just don't need to accelerate that fast. There's never a case where it makes any sense. And car prices would be cheaper if they implemented the thing I'm talking about. It's so much cheaper to produce. It's cheaper to fix an engine like that. You could have 3-cylinder engines. it's fine. But instead we have cars. I mean, the newer cars have way too much horsepower. It makes no sense. I don't understand what happened. Like, I've said this a million times, but I grew up in such an optimistic era, and then none of the things ever happened. It just, none of the things that were ever mentioned or talked about, they never really materialized. There was so much just, aspiration and optimism about the future, and it just never happened. And I still, to this day, I think it's crazy. But maybe it was never going to happen, Maybe it was just always kind of out there, and we just thought it wasn't for whatever reason. I don't really know. I'm not sure. Yeah, I was actually remarkably consistent this week. Pretty remarkably. Like, I kind of just got here at the same time every single day with only a minute deviate. No, actually only one day. That is kind of impressive. Right, because think about that. Yeah, every single day this week, I arrived to work down to the same minute. Except for one day I was 1 minute earlier. And even today, it was really consistent because it had just struck the minute. So it was very close to whatever the average would have been. You get what I mean? I don't know if I have to explain that better. It had just struck the minute. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain that. It had just became the minute. What else is there to say? I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it. I don't care either. If you don't get what I'm talking about, figure it out. Now, I wanted to untangle my microphone, so I guess today we will maybe end up cutting things short. But I guess I could just keep talking, as I fix it, and just kind of poorly record some extra audio. It'll be kind of a laid back, kind of funny content, humorous content, you know what I mean? It's interesting. I just saw, I don't know how realistic this is, but Social Security will run out in the 2030s, so that kind of stinks for me. Unless they fix it. I think they're going to raise the age that you can take out benefits, which is pretty bad because life expectancy is actually going down. So I don't know. There's a lot of crazy things happening, and people don't understand. I guess we'll get a feel for how well this mic picks up. I assume it's omnidirectional, so maybe it doesn't really matter so much, but yeah, I don't actually know exactly how I'm going to do this. But yeah, I think over time it's just been getting tangled. And I'm very wary of that because I know that will reduce its longevity, and I'm not really interested in needing to buy another one of these. I think we kind of figured it out. Well, I don't know, guys. I think that about does it. Another Friday here and gone. Anyways, it's been Schlaw, but now it's time to buy Schlaw. So, see ya, Schlaw.